with an exercise of entering one archival data entry before we it's being recorded, okay? Before we switch to the mission data, I think we should start carrying out the first exercise so we don't lose too much our focus on the archival tasks. So I was I asked you yesterday to try and bring something today to actually upload on the platform in the archival section of the platform. So I would now ask you to please do it yourselves. Do you want me to guide you again through the fields before you do it? Or do you want to try and then we go over what you have done? What do you prefer, guys?
Yeah, we can try. We can try first.
Sorry?
We can try. If there's any error,
Okay.
we can always edit. Yeah.
All right, good. Okay. Yes, anyway, you may also want to sit next to each other so you can take advantage from Susan's help, maybe those who are together, but you do anything you want. Can you show me? No, it doesn't really matter. You can show it to me later, what you're going to enter in the platform. So I'm going to leave you, it should be a 10 minutes thing. Don't go crazy if you have any problems. So I'll give you 10 minutes and then we'll go through what you have done on the platform, provided that I can see it. Yes, I should be able to see it. Okay, I'll leave you to it.
So mtu akiona kama kuna topics more. For example, alikuwa anasema hii kitu kama isha already washa decide nani anaingia. Alafu sana
kwa topic number. Ile niko nayo na fit kwa electoral institution. No, IBC, so
oh, yes. So I can just speak out of what he said. I can just pick one.
Angalia gani na fit closer to it. Yeah, best fit. Best fit.
All right. Okay. What was that? Sorry. What was I asking? Ali mentioned that what was it's like it's the government has already decided who's coming in. Also, he mentioned the way they're going to interfere in our votes. Hapo kapea an example.
Very good.
Okay. Thanks.
June. This is IBC.
Anniversary counts.
We must yeah, yes, I know it's not the SS. kwa nini kwa lapi kwa YouTube kama kwa YouTube after www.tps
hii place ya location kaza ikue inaweza katu Nairobi
kama hivi na place kutasomea space unaweza nikatu
Nairobi sasa kwa hii mapya pili
kama si lazima specific mchiki kama mapya pili ndio let's say the news broke out get then we are not the one that will get that no so kama okay
sasa nikuulize sasa kama hapa kwa text na kama linki
hiyo news imeandikwa si ndio
iko sawa
ya iko sawa
before
date ilikuwa news ya jana
ya leo ni
leo
silikuwa
sawa
alafu ilikuwa room
so ilitoa
kutoka SS
ni mtu alikuwa anasema alikuwa na view yake
basi
ni room
hakuna need ya file ya upload kuna need ya file
hiyo SS imeka after https ama
www. alafu ss before
alafu tusikize
using both click there's a type root there's a ilikuwa rangi root there's a type angalia kama kuna
sababu kwa sema root ndo alikuwa anasema sio
linking
unaweza kama
mobe unaweza select
rangi
unaweza hiyo
unaweza okay sawa unaweza ka doses
mobe unaweza list as many as you think
okay
okay then ukenda kwa chini select your select
root
finish
and share ndio hata hiyo
so to chini ulifanya wapi ulisikia wapi
kwa gari nikitoka huko
unaweza katu
Nairobi anaweza kusema how it relates the
kama andika Kasarani
okay wapi liko enter analysis for this data
so unaweza yote hiyo think about it like you think it's your room inaweza come true just your input
my input now okay so bana nasema kitu kama it could be true because it's not the first time we've heard about it.
Unaweza sema a lot of people are speculating on that particular room.
Okay, sawa.
So kama nimetoa ile location ya first na
hiyo location kama nilikuwa Twitter mimi yangu nimeandika Twitter.
Okay. So hiyo kwa map ya first.
Kwa map nimeandika
Kisumu kama alikana camping Kisumu for example.
Kisumu.
Alafu hiyo map ya there.
I think ya kwanza utaandika Nairobi juu ile sivyo Nairobi sivyo. Ama social media kwa social media then hiyo pili ndio utaandika Kisumu. Juu ilikuwa inafanywa Kisumu specifically sivyo.
How is it going? You need more time?
Almost.
Okay, take your time, no worries.
Let's
hapo chini sasa tunaweka EleQta hapa research kama unadai. What do you think about your reduce? Nataka kitu brief sana andike kitu. Mimi actually nimeenda tu nikachukua tu. Comment relevant ndio kwa Twitter comments hapo. Hata mimi na think about it.
Alafu create.
Yeah, create. Nimechekia kwa penzi nijifunze kwa bali sana kwa mtu official. Wala vile skills campaign. Don't go too crazy. Brave. Unakuja kwa page kama hii.
Ngoja niko na nini hapa? Hata unasema mtu asiende too crazy lakini niko na nini? Yo, ilikuwa wapi? Really? Upload.
Create. I create.
Nilikuwa naangalia in case niko na challenge kama hiyo.
Hapo iko sawa.
Iko sawa.
Tindy is having a challenge creating It's having a challenge creating because when he presses create, takes him back to the page that he needs to input data.
Sasa nilikuwa nauliza kama ni topics more under the same person, mtazidivide.
Ni sawa tu, si bora tu hiyo data first ile ndio tuna collect na fit kwa topic gani, hata ikiwa ni same topic ni sawa.
Oh no, I think now ni kama ni different topics. Unaona kama for example,
unaangalia which is best relevant.
Na
They could all be wrong, but there's that one which is best relevant.
No, like this, for example, this guy talked about rigging and then he talked about something else. So do I separate the information? I take like now rigging and rigging, then I go to the next, I look for another entry.
Clone.
Clone.
There's a clone and then you change the main topic.
But in a PS.
Yes, guys, sorry. I was looking for my Zoom window. Long man. You okay? You done?
So apart from myself, when I'm trying to click on the button create, it brings the stop sign. So I'm not able to create.
It gives you an error.
Yeah, like an error.
Can you show me what it says, or tell me what it says?
You can link.
Kwa email.
Let him share the screen.
Yeah. What are you using? What kind of browser are you using?
Chrome.
Okay.
Oh, it is already trying to.
Okay, 763 for 763. Sorry. Username ni TDZ.
Okay.
What's the username for this webinar?
Nico.
Kuna tu link na hapo down. Big blue, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Making ID make. Hiyo ndio uliweka password.
Just come.
Hapana, ya nani Angela. Sisi.
Yeah.
Hebu ndio. Kuna watu wengi. Hata acha nipatie tu. Ingia tu Zoom. Maana
Zoom.
Zoom. Na ingi ya Angela Ngogo. 26647. Nakuona je?
Kwa jana. Kwa jana.
Sana chagua intermediate
926 2666 4798. Passport. Ilirudisha passport.
Front.
Is it still, do you still get the error? What's happening?
It's trying to log into the meeting directly
So that
so that you can share it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get errors. This is usually due to the fact that the connection is not very stable while you are on the data entry page. In my experience, but I don't know if this is the case and the cause of the problem in your case or not. So, well, yeah, try to show me what you what you have. It might also be that you try again and it's going to work, but unfortunately, trying again means entering the data again usually, unless you browser shows it back to you.
Bila passport.
Join.
926 26 66 47 98.
Password.
Yeah. 23 73 66. Share.
Ah, yes. Just error, just like that. I think you need to cut your microphone, Cindy.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Okay, that's it.
So,
Cindy, I think that you should, unfortunately, you have to reload the page
yeah.
and do the entry again, but copy the text you just wrote to your clipboard, so you will have that at least. I just want to make sure that this error is not always there.
Text is the text.
You can yeah, copy the main text or copy both to another file as you wish. But this is quite shorter. You can also write it down again, or you paste what you just copied together with this and put it on a file.
We enter the whole thing. I had uploaded a video. So,
Okay, well, we will have to do that again,
okay.
unfortunately. Yeah, but don't worry, just reload the page. You don't need to delete everything. You just reload it with a round error on top, or you just go again through your home page. No, this is the dossier part. You got it. No, wait, watch out, because this is how to add a new dossier for a person or for example a social.
Sure.
We'll do that too later because we need to get some exercise in that respect too. But okay, yes. Okay, so yeah, you paste everything back. It works for you. That's good.
It's okay.
That's fine. That's good news.
So I can go into rural media.
Okay, you already have it, yeah? Yeah, okay.
First. And then
Okay, that's you remember what this is, yeah, the okay. You can add information there about no, but you don't need to put the file name. If the upload works, you don't need to put the file name. It's only a reference if in case there's a problem with the upload, so we can find it. You can find it among your files if you still have it, or send it to us and we can find it in the files you sent to us. Okay.
See, the same error.
You're lucky or not. Okay, yeah, it is quite rare. We actually try to make it as rare as possible that you get those types of errors. You let us know if it starts happening again systematically. It shouldn't. Obviously, one of the factors is the fact that your equipment may switch from one access point to another while you are on the data entry page. I don't think that was the case this time, but what we really, the advice I give to all of you is to avoid working on EleQta when you are moving on some form of transport, etc., because that's a situation where your phone will probably switch from one antenna to the other, and when that happens, you get this kind of error. It cannot happen while you are in a data entry page. So moving means moving fast. I mean, if you're walking on the street, you can use the platform, etc. But be a little bit careful if you are really traveling. You might get a number of these errors, and if this happens, you should know that it's because when you are inside the data entry page, you have to remain connected through the same network infrastructure, let's say. This is a security feature that we were unable to actually eliminate because it's really important to have this kind of thing. Otherwise, there's a possibility of really manipulating the data for some external parties. So anyway, let me share my screen now, and we're going to go through what has been done, so I can give you some feedback. Share screen. This one. Okay. Can you see my screen? Yes, I guess so. So this is a page that you cannot see except for Susan, who is a team supervisor, so she can see the data entries for the whole team. When one of your users wants to see his own data, that's all he can see. He has to click on data. No, sorry. If you click on data up here, you will see the data entries for your team, but you will not be able to intervene on them. By the way, I'm not able to intervene on them either. Why? This is strange. I should be able to actually do more than this. Hang on. We can do this another way also. So yeah, give me 1 second. I need to access a screen where I can actually edit the data you have entered. So I'll go through. All right. Okay. So this is a part of EleQta that I will show you later, where you actually perform operations on the data that has already been entered, because you will all have to validate the data entries that you have done, and then they will go through Susan, your supervisor, who will in turn also rapidly check what you have done and validate it, and then it's going to be our turn to again look at what has been done and send it to the final drawer of our database, where the data is actually accessible to others. So this is Tindy's data entry, the one we just saw. Let's check it out. Okay. Professor Wajakoya's campaign platform, Roots Party presidential candidate, campaigns in Kisumu where he slammed government officials who are against his campaign mode and are accusing him of misleading the youth with a bag narrative. Okay. So let's see the video. Is it long?
No, it's like a minute 40.
Okay. I just need to see it so I can understand what it is about. It's going to take a little time to download. So, Mr. Wajakoya is surely involved in this information. We could maybe add here the Roots Party, since this information also concerns this party. If you have doubts here, it's better to have something more than something less. So always add an extra dossier if you're not sure. It doesn't really matter. And also, well, yeah, these government officials are quite generic, so it's kind of difficult to add more specific information about them. It doesn't really matter.
Incidentally, ndio ilikuwa ile story yangu ingine. Ile kasema you don't have any moral capacity to tell your opinion.
It was interesting. I don't understand what he's saying, but I think that I will ask you to tell me more about this professor. He reminds me of a lot of similar figures, especially in Congo, Brazzaville. I saw a few. Do you think, I mean, where does he stand in terms of, does he have any connections to some form of religious, and not necessarily Christian or Western religious belief, but where does he stand exactly? Or is he like more of an independent hero kind of? I'm really curious because he has this look. Tell me more about him, please. Hindi or
not really. He hasn't shown any religious affiliations other than when he's attacking them, especially the Catholic Church, which was quite vocal against his platform. But he hasn't shown any religious persuasions of any kind. He's campaigning more on this platform, which is marijuana legalization and paying off the Chinese debt. That's his main platform.
I see, but does he claim to be like a Rastafari or?
Yes. Yes. Okay. That's the only. He's a Rastafarian. Actually, there's an interesting tweet we just released on the same political rally that he was on. Yeah, he was saying probably as a joke that the Muslims will have their weekly holiday on Friday. The Christians and the SDAs will remain over the weekend, but the Rastafarians will have a holiday every day.
Yes. Okay. Oh, but it's interesting. And does he have any like Pan-Africanist ideas? Does he? I don't know. He has a lot of things in common with figures that somehow try to incarnate some form of messianism, which is not necessarily connected to Christianity.
Yeah. He was actually saying that he's a messiah. That's there's a clip not by him, by another a supporter of his supposedly, who was saying he could be the messiah to deliver us from the Chinese debt. Actually, the biggest issue for him is the paying off the Chinese debt. As he was saying, he'll pay over using snake farming, exporting dog meat to Korea, and marijuana.
That's charisma.
Okay.
I think he falls under charismatic leader.
Yes, definitely. How big is he in terms of? Do you have an idea in terms of like voting polls and to roughly how much does he count? Do you know?
But the latest poll it was, he was at around 7%.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not that small. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Now, just he also reminds me of a friend from Congo who is actually and is a militant. Yeah, it's pretty pretty interesting. Anyway, okay. So I was looking at the data. Yes, and obviously this video was shot in Kisumu, so correctly Tindi did indicate on the first, wait, where is this? Okay, this source, this comes from Royal Media Services, but where exactly did you get it? I mean, do they have a website? Do they?
Yeah, on the YouTube channel.
On their YouTube channel. So this was actually fished out of the internet.
Yeah.
So the map should stay empty, the first map, because this information is accessible from the entire planet. It is on the internet. So you should have left the map empty. And then I noticed one thing. Royal Media Services has a dossier, but as you can see, it is among the companies because somebody in the past elections has correctly created a dossier for this Royal Media Services, which is a company. But in this case, we should point out that this video comes from the YouTube channel of Royal Media Services, which is itself a media and not a company. So I will create a new dossier. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of confusion that arises among dossiers because there might be similarities. So I will clearly state here that it's the YouTube channel. And the system proposes me if I want to create a dossier, so I will do it. And then I will go to the Royal Media Services dossier we saw earlier, and I will add company to its name, so it is more clear that that type of dossier should rather be used if there is Royal Media Services acting as a company, maybe, you know, taking a stance, endorsing one of the candidates, but as a company, not as a media service. This is, I mean, I realize this is quite a detail, but it's still kind of important to try and, you know, keep things tidy within EleQta in this sense. So for the rest, it seems to me that everything is okay. You have written your comment here, fighting back on the government and the clergy on its main campaign platform of marijuana legalization. Does he stand a chance to get marijuana to get legalized in Kenya? Hardly, I think.
It's definitely helped shift the Overton window, because even one of the officials from the Jubilee government said that if Raila wins, he's likely to legalize medicinal marijuana, not.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So I have made a few minor changes. Everything was pretty fine. Just a few little details, and it's done. There is one thing I wanted to show you. I forgot that yesterday, but I told you that when you manipulate dossiers, which means you create dossiers in your data entry pages, what happens? EleQta creates a new dossier, but she puts it in a special drawer, which is called My Dossier, and that dossier will not be visible or accessible to others until you have completed it. So yesterday we have also created a dossier. I'm not sure we're going to see it now because it's probably I was using a different user, but I want to show you what one should do immediately after he has created a dossier in the data entry page. He should go and fill it in. Obviously, this is going to happen quite rarely, in the sense that most of the time you're going to enter data and you will not need to create a new dossier while you're entering your data. But if you do, it is really important that you straight away you go and fill it in. So you remember, I just created a new dossier for Royal Media Company YouTube channel, and I want to go and find it now in the dossiers list. So right here, my dossiers list is particularly extensive because I have a user which goes across countries, I think. Or is it just Kenya? No, I think so. No, there's many countries here. So what I'm gonna do, and you will have to do the same. If you click on your dossiers page here, you will access all the dossiers for Kenya, which are not necessarily in the right order, which means that you won't necessarily immediately see the dossier that you have just created. If you want to see it, it's very simple. Usually dossiers, they receive, just like data entries, they receive consecutive IDs, numbers. So the last one should be the one I just created. Maybe somebody is working at the same time with you, and it's not going to be the last one, but the one before. But still, it's going to be pretty much on top of the list. And also I messed up because I created a dossier for Congo Brazzaville because my user is connected to that country. Okay. Well, let's forget about this for now. Anyway, right here I can see that there's a few dossiers that have been created and not completed. You see, it appears like this: my dossier and to be completed. Then I can see here that there's a lot of these. This is not good. Our guys in Congo Brazzaville didn't really completely understand what happens. Well, we'll check that out. Anyway, let's go on checking the data entries. We'll get back to this. while we continue our work. Sorry, I need to go to data. On, come on. Okay, so the latest data entries, I'm using the same principle to find your data entries, the ones you just made, by simply clicking on this column and making the last ones appear first. So user 9, this maybe is Dictum, I don't know, possibly. But no, I was using the other. No, sorry, I was using the other interface. And by the way, let me just correct this. I will place myself. So somewhere else. No. Okay. Sorry, I'll be with you. Okay. So we have a data entry here which has been made by user 9. You will have to tell me who this is. I think it's either Susan or Dixon because
Mine is 11.
sorry?
Mine is user 11. This is
Okay, this is Dixon then. Okay, we're looking at what Dixon has done. So Dixon is a veteran, so it should be perfect. Let's see. The significance, if any, in the election from the citizens' point of view. Choice not to vote. Visiting various individuals of different age groups in Nandi County, as well as individuals of different economic status. Many interviewed individuals expressed a concern not to vote in the well-known presidential aspirants. One village market in Nandi Hills in particular, named Migingo, voiced that due to the increase in price commodities that have skyrocketed, they see no need in voting, as they term the leading candidates as same monkeys, different forests. Yes, quite right, probably. All right, so this has been the result of Dixon's observation. So he chose as a source his own observation. Dixon is probably, from what I understand, already working on the election by well, working or talking about the election, at least with people in his neighborhood. So correctly enough, he has not entered this information in the mission data because it was not gathered during a specific day when he was on a mission, because we will assign you precise days when you have to go on the field on your mission areas and gather the data. But still, in your everyday life, or maybe for other types of work that you're doing, you might interact with people and perform observative work in your neighborhood or anywhere, and thus what actually should be done here in the first field is use this researcher's observation option. Correctly enough, he has pointed Nandi as the place of origin of the information. Let's see picture. All right. There's a gathering, a gathering of people talking about politics, which is also good. The dossiers involved are, well, the main presidential candidates or the incumbent, the ex-president, future ex-president of Kenya. Again, you have Dixon pointed out again, Nandi, as an allocation contained in the information. It was not necessary, but it's not a problem because we already have this location up here, so you don't necessarily have to point it out twice. It's okay to do it, but in the future, keep in mind that if you do it once, you don't have to do it twice if the information, the location is the same. So the place where you gathered the information corresponds or doesn't. Maybe not. Dixon, are they different places? Sorry, because I didn't zoom in enough.
No, it's the same place.
They're the same place. Okay, okay. So it wasn't really necessary to point it out twice, but it's still okay. The choice not to vote in this case could impact negatively first. Such as not voting makes way for the undesired candidate. Secondly, political elite who depends on individual votes lose the voting support, and the whole aspect and importance of voting loses its desired meaning. The current hustler versus dynasty narrative is solely pegged on the willingness of the voter to practice their constitutional right. Political affiliation that gets many of their supporters to vote win at the end of the day. Okay, yeah, it's good. This is still a temporary plot hypothesis, but I think it's going to stand more or less. So everything is good. I did not make any changes to this, so I will just click on cancel and make sure there's no intervention. Okay. Then rigging. Okay. Who is it who made this? Jacqueline? I guess Jacqueline
Yes.
must. Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So this information is about rigging. Mention that rigging is already underway, in that systems are already being interfered with. Nearby names of voters are already being moved from where they registered to another voting station in attempt of making sure that they don't vote. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, this comes from rumors. This is in Nairobi, I guess.
Yes.
This is where you live, more or less. It's your neighborhood.
Yes, it's around, yeah. It's a neighborhood.
Okay, great. Oh, it's fresh. It's just this morning. Great.
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, and there is obviously no upload because the source is the rumors. Why did you indicate Ruto particularly in here?
Because they're saying it's Ruto who's saying the system's already been interfered with.
All right. Okay. So somebody was relaying Ruto's opinion about this.
Yes.
When you heard the rumors. Okay. I think it's very good, but I would still add here that this is Ruto's opinion, because otherwise one would not understand why you have mentioned Ruto in the dossiers, and whereas here it only appears that you heard somebody mentioning the fact that there is this form of rigging where people are being moved from one district to another. So anyway, I just briefly add that, just to make it more clear for someone who is going to see the data, and ask himself, but where's Ruto in this? And we give him a little hint to where Ruto actually is. Okay, so the second map is empty, which is good. A lot of people speculating about it as far as immediately after the election, after the last election. Yes, and actually I saw this article today where it says, I see this. There's this KPMG, which is it's a firm, it's kind of a consultancy firm, and they made this audit, and it appears that there's out of 22 million voters, there's 246,000 were dead, 481,000 have duplicated records, 226,000 have false identity, and 164 have invalid identification. So well, which is, by the way, not unique to Kenya or to Africa itself. So it's very common to have these situations where there's dead people voted, also in Italy. Incredibly enough. Okay, so I have updated this archival piece of data, archival task. Let's go see Susan's, which is this one. All right. The electoral institutions and the strategies adopted to influence them. Agents, candidates, and the media to tally their own results alongside IBC, Chebukati says. Yes, this is very interesting and very common. It will be something that we will have to check out on. Lately, it happens very often that single political parties, platforms, or even media perform their own vote counting through different means. In late elections, I've seen a few cases in Cameroon and also in Congo Brazzaville where there were applications for mobile phones developed on purpose to do this, meaning that the opposition party would install this application on all the mobile phones of the people they would send to the polling stations to survey, to check out, the polling stations. It's usually the different parties have each a representative in each polling station, or at least there's one for the incumbents and one for the opposition. And so these representatives from the opposition had these applications, and they would upload the results for their polling stations to a central database. And in Gabon, this sparked really a lot of problems in the past presidential election, because there were incredible discrepancies between what these guys were uploading and what the official results were saying. And to the point that for the legislative election that followed, this and other similar applications were banned, forbidden by the government to prevent this kind of things from happening. So this is something that is of interest to us, the production of figures, not because, as I told you, we have an interest in really understanding whether there was rigging or not, because it's really hard to get there, but because the production of figures is part of the construction of legitimacy that the candidates perform before and also after, during and after the vote. I think that although it is very, very common that these figures have significant discrepancies, there is one point where it also depends very much from country to country, but in some countries, these figures were really upheld in a very strong way. Even as it was the case in the legislative elections in Congo Brazzaville that we checked out last year, these figure discrepancies led to negotiations between the government and the opposition, where the opposition was granted a little bit more space in the parliament because there was this discrepancy. Then Congo Brazzaville is a situation where the parliament doesn't really have a huge amount of power, and it's still widely controlled by the ruling party. So it was not a big sacrifice in terms of political power. It wasn't a little bit of a sacrifice in terms of obviously, if you sacrifice a few MPs for your party and give them to the opposition, that's salaries. MP salaries were going to opposition people. So this is basically what most of the opposition in Congo is after, because they know that it's really hard to attain the top of the pyramid. But what they're mostly after is, getting a little stake in the government business, rather than on the decisional side. It's mostly on the benefit side. They want to be there so they can share the oil wealth, which is at the base of the country's riches. So well, the use of figures is also something that we will have to look into quite closely. I will download this video meanwhile, which I could have done when I was talking to you. That's pretty big. So let's go see the rest first. Okay, this is the sources, researchers, observation. So I guess, Susan, this is a video you shot.
No.
Is
It was supposed to be the source was supposed to be the internet. I don't know. Maybe I forgot to put that for it.
okay. Don't worry. There is no choice of the internet as a generic source. One should try and be a little bit more specific. Do you remember where you sourced the video, where you got it from?
It was on Twitter.
On Twitter, okay. So I don't think there's a dossier for Twitter either.
Yeah, because I had to try to be created.
Yes, I would not do it myself, because if I do it, it's gonna go to Congo Brazzaville, because I have a user now that is we will leave this on a side for now, but later on we will create a few dossiers together for all these social networks that don't have one yet.
Okay.
Okay, so the file name, it was not necessary to fill it in again because you have uploaded the file. So it's not a big deal, but you were not, it was not necessary to put it in here. Shibukati is involved. Can you remind me who he is, or she? Wafula, she is. Wafula, is it a girl or a boy?
No, it's a gentleman. It's
Sorry.
a middle.
I apologize. But and
He's the one who heads the electoral commission board.
okay. Great. Since when? Just out of curiosity, was he there for the last election?
Even from the previous election.
All right. Okay. So he must be quite powerful in some way, quite a powerful guy, or not? But he is complaining about. No, he is complaining about, yes, about other parallel instances of trying to gather and calculate the electoral results. Yes, of course. Recipe for trouble chaos. Three groups, especially the top two coalitions, would certainly announce their candidate the winner and call the election way before the IEBC can announce its verified results. You all know what one coalition will do is, yes, when the IEBC announces the winner. Yes. Yes, it's true. This is also a recipe for chaos. It has been in Gabon, for example, because there were also significant riots, especially in this region where, well, it was quite a scandal because the official results were like 99% of the people voted and 99% voted for Mr. Bongo, the president. So it was this was the official results, and what the opposition produced was much more realistic because, you know, I don't remember exactly, but the normal figures, and that's what actually sparked the riots, because this 99% thing was quite. And then they also showed that dead people voted, and so anyway. I haven't made any changes here. Let's just see the video.
So, Mr. Chebukati,
the public is an ongoing exercise to have, I don't know whether you attended some of the sessions about education directorate, and how about education. I think she touched on that in her remarks, that we have two board educators for work, and we also reach out to the public results. And also have other good things, but we you say daily, and then during elections, we shall also have our so that's ongoing. The second question on report XYS polling station 600 votes for so report that, but don't declare. That's my one. That's the one for the yes. Yeah. And I know the media owners were backing up and informed that the media owners are also for the idea. Together, you are senior editors and reporters who are here, we can move this country have a peaceful and transparent election campaign. So thank you to thank the team for being here the last 2 days, and we hope that in the next 10 days we can actualize the framework and also hear from you as to how you're going to run this. Thank you. Election the polling station. The polling station the maximum 700. That's the counted, not vote. The results will be tabulated and presidential elections okay, which after results are tabulated, the vote is signed by the state concerned agent of the candidate. That on top of that result based on the power of the station, that is given the agent, and we are saying agents and candidates, they also need to carry down results. The media carry the results. They have a media platform where they know when they are transmitted to people. And those on the ground, that then you can have access to the Excel. So let's say everybody have Excel, and we are not limiting the video to the candidates have copies. So together, when we go to the National Planning Center, we compare it with Excel. So everybody can study how they want activity, but the final announcement, declaration, that's what we see. The results are not private, for public consumption. I should have not read the judgments of the court, so I don't know in what context. You know, as a lawyer, I want to know what the judgment of the but what we do know is that we see the list of contracts one chose from running, lemon.
Okay.
Right.
Well, anyway. Okay. Yes, it's pretty interesting that there's a debate about this. Yes, you see every little example you have given me here is actually sparking a lot of interesting avenues that we should try and follow in the coming days and weeks. So anyway, this data entry is also fine. We just need to take care about the source. So I would maybe propose you to take a break now, because otherwise after this it's going to be too late. And after this break, we will go again a little bit back to the dossier part of our work, and we will create a few dossiers for the social media that we still need, including Twitter, the source of Susan's video. And then we will also, I will also show you again rapidly how to intervene on the dossiers that you create in the dossier, in the data entry pages. Voilà. So let's have a 10 minutes break. Is it okay for you?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, good. All right. I'll be here anyway. I'll leave this thing open. Maybe just mute.
Sure.
Yeah, the other question is, where are these recordings going? But we'll have to inquire about that before the briefings are over. I still don't see your, there it is. Okay, good. All right, so first you should go back to your data entry. So you go to your home page or your elections page. Yeah, no. Because for now we still have not created the dossier, because I was going to do it, but then I didn't because my user wouldn't do it correctly. So yes, you go in there, and then obviously I didn't tell you yet, but there's that button that says view archival data, and that allows you to go to that orange background page where you can see all the archival data entries. So that's what where you should go now, Susan. Which I could switch other screen. Okay, so this is your data entry, and on the right you can see the edit button.
Yeah.
So you go back in here, and what we have to do is change the source. Let me just double check that we don't have any Twitter. I don't think so. Twitter, Kenya, you wrote it down, huh?
Yeah.
Or you found it? Okay, okay. That's good. Okay, so the dossier is now created. You will also go scroll down to the bottom of the page to say save, because you have made a change to this data entry, namely by adding the Twitter dossier to the source field. And then, so what Susan has just done is creating a dossier within a data entry page, okay? So please bear with me because this is really a little bit important. She has done this, so the system has already registered the existence of this dossier. But EleQta doesn't know if we're talking about a social network, a person. She's not able to distinguish. So the next step immediately after that you have to do after creating a dossier in a data entry page is go to the dossier section, find it, and fill it in. So you click on the dossier tab on top of the page, and on the black one, yeah. No, the dossier. It's just on top, just above. Okay, please follow this with a little bit of attention because there's one passage involved which might not be the easiest. You have to find the dossier for Twitter, and EleQta doesn't really put it on top of the list by default. You have to find it, and there are different ways of finding it. There's a search tool up there, so if you remember the name of the dossier you just entered, you only need to write Twitter in there, and there it comes. Otherwise, if you don't remember the name, you can use the dossier number column on the left. By clicking on the top of the column, you will order the dossiers by number. So if you do it now, nothing's going to change because there's just one dossier. Since you have narrowed the number of dossiers to one because you have searched. So anyway, as you can see, Twitter Kenya appears in a type and subtype that are my dossier to be completed. So now this dossier has to be completed to make it visible and usable by others. So you need to click on edit next to it. There isn't much to do here, right? You just need to tell the system that the type is not my dossiers, but the type is media, and the subtype is social network. And basically, that's it. We don't need to say anything about Twitter. And really, it's okay. It doesn't have any particular relations or data foundation. It doesn't matter. Okay, so just click on save. Now that this is done, the dossier is available to others too. So it is important that you do it rapidly, because if you don't do it rapidly, if tomorrow somebody creates another dossier for Twitter Kenya, he will obviously connect some data entries to it. It's going to be the source of some of his information or involved in some of the stuff he is entering. And then it's going to create a double dossier. And that's something we really want to avoid. You see, somebody has also created a dossier for the IEBC, and it's still to be completed. And I think it's Susan too, because we see it on her profile. Hang on, are you sure there was not already a dossier for this IEBC? Let's double check that first. So go back to the dossier list and just search for I would just search for the word election. And okay, so this is the one we created. Let's scroll down this list to see if anything else has popped out that refers to the IEBC. Apparently not. Did you go all the way down? I'm sorry, because I missed the lower part of the screen, I think. So I can't see.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
It's already there. Okay. It's already there. It's not properly classified because it says other organizations, whereas we have We have, and by the way, there's another one. Look at that.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's also another one, and that's correctly classified. So let's do one thing. Let's delete the one you just created and leave these other two. No, not this one. You delete, no, delete the one on top, the
Okay.
one you created. Yes. This has to go because we don't need a third one. The other two, I think we will leave them for now. I will check because if you delete the dossier, you will also delete all.
Yeah, because this one has been written on
This is probably D67. I need to check. This is probably somebody getting confused and because it's weird. It says confirms its preparedness of elections. It looks more like a data entry than a dossier. I think somebody got confused and you know, said found some information where the EBC was saying yes, we're ready, and instead of creating a data entry, they created a dossier. So I'll have to look into this.
So when you
yes,
when you delete, like now the one you just deleted, Susan, yeah? So does that, what goes now on the data entry that you just put?
nothing. We have to go back to the data entry, and instead of creating a new dossier, we have to use the one that already existed. So Susan, you should now go back to your data. Show me what, yeah, just show me what it does. No, but if you go to data, you're unable to edit, but just show me what it shows you, just out of curiosity. Because I forgot how the privileges are given. It should show you all the data entries by the team. That's it. So there's not much yet, but you cannot actually edit them from here. So each user can only edit his own data entry. There is a way for Susan to edit your data entries also, but I will show it to her later. It's and but now Susan has to edit her own data entry because it was her or not who used the. Remind me, please. It was you. Yeah. So go to your elections page and to your orange background data archive data entries list, archival data entries list, and exactly. So it's view archival data. And right here, you have to edit this. And sorry, let me shout at my son who's playing loud music. Sorry, I'm back. Okay, so the source is okay. The dossier is involved. Now here you have to add again the IEBC and yeah, the fact. There it is. Okay, great. So that's it. You have to click on it. Be careful because if you click on the other option, create dossier, it's going to create one. So okay, now we fished the right dossier. Hopefully, let me just double check because no, it's not. This is the one, the bizarre one.
What was the name? It was D9. The correct one is supposed to be D9.
The correct one is just electro. They didn't put the acronym in the name, so that's you just type election and you should find it beneath all these. Yes, Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. I will
Yeah.
edit this. Yes.
So it's
Select
a
that.
government agency.
Yes, it's right. It's an electoral institution, so this is the right one. I will just hang on. I will just do one thing for now, which is very simple. I will change the name of the other dossier, the wrong one, so we don't get confused. I just call it do not use. That's it. It has a lot of relations. Okay, all right. Well, I'll have to transfer all the information in this dossier to another one. Okay. So I've changed the name of the other one, and there is one other lesson here for us, which is it is usually better to also did it work or not? Yes, it's fine. Okay. There is also grounds to actually add the acronym of an institution or an organization that is very commonly named by its acronym within the name. So we'll do that together just to show you. This is okay. So you can save what you've done to your data entry page. And now we will add IEBC to the name of the dossier that exists for the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. So now you go to the dossier section, we're going to edit that and just add IEBC within a parenthesis. You can search for electoral over there just to call it out. Or yes, that's it. This is the X, but this is another thing. Interim Independent Electoral Commission. This makes sense.
So the first one.
Today as it is, and that needs to be edited. Just to add to the full name in the full name field. You should add IEBC also in the full name field, maybe within a parenthesis if you want to. It doesn't really matter. I'm making you do this because when you are on the data entry page and you type IEBC while entering a source, for example, the system will only search in the full name field. So if the acronym is not there in the full name field, you're not going to find it. So it is important to add the acronym in the full name field if we are dealing with something that is very commonly called by its acronym. Okay?
Okay.
Possibly also political parties. It might be clever to do that. Anyway, this is done. You can save the change. It has a relation to do not use. Organization is task. What does this mean? Doesn't matter. Now it wants you to enter details. I would remove the relationship with Kenyatta because there is no particular relationship with this guy. I mean, unless he founded it. But
I remove it.
yeah, just remove it. And then about this saffron identity and security, I don't know why there's no details in here. How somebody could create. Yes, because when we worked together in 20, this is all data. It was not compulsory to add. Yeah, just what's the relationship between saffron identity? This is probably the provider of the voting machines or something like that.
They provided the server, the IT, the virtual server that was hosted in France. You remember the OT mobile controversy?
Okay, that's good. Perfect. Click on save. It actually wouldn't allow you to save because at the time we did not compel people to enter the nature of the relationship, but now we have added this feature, and since at the time it was not compulsory, now it is, and it makes it tricky to change dossiers. Okay. Anyway, I will also check out all this dossier list because it needs to be cleaned up. I think that let's just double check. There is no dossier for Facebook and for WhatsApp. So please, yes, do a search.
So
We don't have Facebook. And let's see about WhatsApp. Not even WhatsApp. Okay, that's good. So I will please ask Tindy and Jacqueline to create these two dossiers. So, but first I need to tell you one thing. You know that there are groups on WhatsApp, and it is interesting for people who will look at the data to know that the information is spread through one specific group and not just on WhatsApp itself. I think what we have done applied as a criterion in the past in other countries is to create one dossier for WhatsApp Kenya, generic, and in there we will fit any information that comes from minor groups, let's say. In some countries there are groups that really have a very intense activity. Fine, no, I'm not available now. Ciao. No computers. No computers today. No, you cannot use computers today. You're barred from computers. Sorry. So what I would say, we also created dossiers for some more very important WhatsApp groups. I think we should follow the same criterion in Kenya. And the way to actually solve any superposition problems that may arise is simply to create a relation between each one of the WhatsApp groups dossiers that we will create and the main WhatsApp Kenya dossier. So if they are related, it doesn't really matter. Even if somebody finds information on a group and that has a dossier and puts it in the bigger dossier, it doesn't really matter. But still, I think that some of these groups might be very active and that there might be a significant amount of information found on one specific group. So we might actually need to create a dossier for some of these groups. But anyway, that's not what we're going to do now. Now I will simply ask Tindy to create a dossier for Facebook Kenya and Jacqueline to create a dossier for WhatsApp Kenya using their own accounts. And as we did for Twitter, there is no need to enter any specific information. The important thing is to actually classify them in the correct type and subtype. Okay, so please go ahead and do this, and I will meanwhile just give a look at the dossiers for Kenya by connecting with my other user. At the time,
share screen.
Oh, share the screen.
We like the share mine.
Kuna login. Kuna login today. This
They log into that.
mapema fika time yako.
Okay.
You can see my.
Okay. I'm just rapidly going through the dossiers to see if there's any major problem here. I've seen Odinga pop up. Yes, Odinga has 2 dossiers. And one social network.
I was asking, do I have to share my screen or I just go ahead and create?
No, you can just go ahead and create, don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. You have to, yeah, so.
Kama nimetaka tu kwa ile yangu ni edit, sio?
So just remember that I'm asking you to add the word Kenya.
Unafanya gani?
Facebook.
Yeah, so now una create WhatsApp Kenya.
Sasa hiyo yako tulicreate na nini? Tulicreate na data entry.
Anza tu.
Kama ni data entry nyingine mpya.
Unaanza mpya kwa document kwa hiyo tab ya dossier. Alafu na click.
Add new dossier.
Yeah, add new dossier.
Kwa dossier.
Yeah.
I found 2 dossiers for
Nimeona thanks.
Lakini
And social media.
social media.
Description. Geographical data.
Chicken.
No, I haven't seen it. Yeah. No,
Dossier. Type ni media.
Social media.
Social media. Like, kuna social media kwa type.
Okay, media.
Got media.
Media. Subtype of social media.
Social media. Social network.
I don't know. There's, it's weird. What happened to?
Sasa huu ni ndio WhatsApp Kenya.
WhatsApp.
Ndio kwa nini?
Relation to social. It's like a tweet in the relation. My user website.
This good.
Data condition. Data distribution. Geographical data.
Kenya.
History and other information.
I think we should enter because history and other information. No.
I don't know if you get.
Okay.
Internet is.
WhatsApp ina acronym. Sisi hivyo tu ni
Yeah, certainly.
na hii history and other information.
Hizo achana.
Relation.
Relation with other days.
Something is really wrong here.
Kuna relation kweli. Media, social network, WhatsApp, description, social media.
Nimepeleka service kwa vile nipande nayo kuji.
Create.
Windows Defender.
Sio. Kuna vile mtu aingie media, social network, WhatsApp.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to deal with a little mystery here, but
Yeah.
Anti-corruption commission. Pietro,
yes.
there is a dossier that I think I'm suggesting we should put, featuring very heavily on the elections cycle, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
yeah, they provide the clearance before a presidential or any other candidate are cleared to run. And I don't think I've seen that as a dossier anyway.
Okay, let's add it then. You first you should perform a search in the search field in the dossier area, so you make sure that it doesn't already exist. You just try to type in, you know, a few words that could hint to its name, and then here it is.
See it?
Right now, Odinga. That's
Yeah,
weird.
Yeah.
I just made a mistake. Okay. Sorry, I was panicking. I thought I accidentally deleted Mr. Odinga. It's good. He's there. You are dealing with a particularly delicate situation here because Kenya was the first country in which EleQta was tested in 2017. You have a particularly tough situation here with the old data, which has been checked and straightened out somehow, but it's usually very difficult to you know, avoid any kind of duplication, etc., etc. So don't worry too much if you see something weird. Just ask. You are not sharing. I mean, the data entry part of EleQta is really separated for each election. So once from your homepage you have chosen the 2022 election, there is no way you're going to see any data entries from the previous ones. But the dossiers are in common. So you are working, these 100 plus dossiers that we have here to start with are from the old campaign. The features of EleQta were also a little bit different. It has evolved through time, and especially there was not this validation part where the data is being checked in different steps. So there might be some incoherence in the data. I will look thoroughly at the dossier list in the next few days. I have already eliminated the double Raila Odinga dossier. That would have been a big problem. I don't see any major problems yet. There's probably a lot of dossiers that are still missing. what we usually do is I ask each one of the researchers on the team to prepare a short list of, I attribute a number of actors, like a type of actor to each one, like Tindi is doing the media, Jacqueline is doing the persons, and we write down a list and then we import it into EleQta. But I don't think that this time this will be necessary, because we already have an initial capital of dossiers, and if we do that, it will be very complicated to check that we're not creating double dossiers, because for each one of the dossiers that you will point out, I will have to go through the 130 plus dossiers that we already have to make sure that it's not already there. So I think this time we would rather proceed by trying to, like we're doing now for Twitter, Facebook, and the dossier that Tindy suggested, we add the big things that we see that they're not there. In the next few days, we will keep on doing a few more exercises of data entry, also the other types of data entry, and we will realize maybe probably that something important is missing, and we will add it during our briefing sessions. And then the rest of the work will be done while doing the inquiries, while entering the data.
I was suggesting, instead of doing it alone, maybe before the election period, I could help you, if you give me the credential, I can help you with checking double entry in terms of the
Yes.
process for this one.
Yes, because your user does not have the possibility to edit the dossier, does it?
Yeah, no.
Okay, okay. Yes, I will find a way to do it, to make it possible, because the problem is that the type of user I have, I see all the dossiers for all the countries together, so it's even more messy. I think there is a way. Let me see. You're already a central supervisor. Let me see if I can do it. I have to check on this. But I will. Probably the easiest way is to give to all the central supervisors the possibility of editing the dossiers. Okay. Okay. Yes. Thanks, Susan. It's a good thing. So let me just check the two dossiers that you have just entered. WhatsApp. So we have WhatsApp, we have Facebook, we have Twitter. WhatsApp groups will wait for now, but if you're entering data that comes from a particularly important WhatsApp group, then you should create a dossier for it and create a relation between WhatsApp Kenya's dossier, the main one, and this other dossier that you're creating for the group, so that they're all related together. I'm not able to tell you what the criterion is to distinguish between a group that is important and one that is not important. I am not even sure that we will stumble upon any truly important WhatsApp groups in Kenya. It all depends on how far the app is used. And obviously, if we have 20 data entries from the same WhatsApp group, it makes sense to create a dossier specifically for that group. But it's hardly to foresee in advance, and I'm the last one of us who is able to do this kind of evaluation. If you are, if there is a group that's nonstop sending stuff about the election and there's a million people on it, then I would say that that's an important group, for example. But I don't have any precise threshold to give you about this. So, and as I said, these are just details. Unfortunately, every country and every context has always new challenges for us. So we have to adapt, and we have to think every time about how to deal with this stuff. And always, you know, we have a WhatsApp group, I have a phone. I'm always there to discuss this stuff with you. So don't hesitate to call me and to let me know. I will also do one thing which is important, which is to add the acronyms for the parties, for example. So it's easier to call them up when you're entering that. Okay, so I think, do you feel like you're familiar enough with this dossier part, especially Jacqueline and Tindy?
Yeah,
Yeah, so far, yeah.
that's so far. So,
Did you understand when I explained what happens when you create a dossier in your data entry page and what you have to do immediately after? Is it clear to you?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. So later on, I wanted to switch now to the mission part of our work and to start showing you how missions work. I would also like to reserve some time today to show you the plot hypothesis that we have been elaborating for the other countries. Like I said yesterday. It is 12:30 over there, so I don't know what do you prefer to do? We can either go through the plot hypothesis now, which will take about half an hour, or you can go for lunch and then we meet back at 1 p.m. or not 2 p.m. And we go on from there. What do you prefer to do, guys?
Is it technical?
Sorry?
Is it technical?
No.
So that we know if we are having a heavy lunch.
No, maybe it's a good idea. We go for lunch now, and then we have the non-technical part, which will be looking at the plots for the other countries, which can be done with one eye open. And but I would just want to give you some examples so that you can better understand what we have to formulate together. Then we can have maybe a quick, brief discussion about the Kenyan situation and try to work a little bit on our plot hypothesis. And then at the end, we will start looking at the mission parts. We're not in a particular hurry. We're going pretty fast, and we're fast learners. So I think that you know, we can take it easy, and if we don't manage to get to the mission part of the data entries today, we can also reserve this for tomorrow. There's not a big problem. We still have 2 days. So so I would let you go for lunch now. What do you say? You usually have lunch pretty early in Kenya. 12:30 is good. Or not? Okay.
Yeah, can come back at lovely.
Okay. So let's all have lunch and see each other back in 1.5 hours. Is it okay? 1.5 hours?
Yeah, more than enough.
I mean, yesterday it took, we made 1 hour 15 minutes. Then I was delayed a little bit, so I think that 1.5 is good.
It's fine. All right.
If you think it's too much, you want to shorten the base earlier, it's fine with me. You just need to tell me. I'm asking you all these questions because I'm sitting here at my desk at home, so it's not like you going around. But you only need to let me know if you really want to have a quick lunch in half an hour and then we finish earlier. It's also a possibility for me. You just need to tell me. And if it's not today, it can also be tomorrow or whenever. Okay?
So which one is that? Come back at two.
Just
I got you.
tumalize tuke haraka.
Yeah, we come back at 1:30.
12:30, okay. All right,
1:30.
1 hour.
1 hour.
Okay. Perfect. I'll leave everything on.
Okay.
this is going to stay on, and when you're back, I'll see you. Okay, good. See you in an hour then.
All right.
Have a good lunch. Hypothesis that I wanted to look at with you. Here it is. Is there any translation for this? No, it's not this one. I had a better one. Sorry, something strange happened to my file. I am trying to get it back. Ah, there it is. There it is. A part of it is in French. I will share my screen with you, and I will translate it to you. My voice is going away. I'm really sorry about this. I had a cough yesterday, and today I'm just no voice. So I'll try to do as much as I can. Maybe I will have you reading the ones in English, if you don't mind, and I will only translate the ones in French for you. I think it is useful to take a look at them together, because they will give you an idea of what we are doing. Let me share my screen. Can you start the recording, Susan, please?
I already started. So
Okay, good. Yes, sorry, I didn't see that. Share my screen. Okay, do you see them? Are they too small to read?
No.
maybe if you can share the file with us so that we can open from our laptops as well. So
Yes, I will. I will send it to you. Also allowed to do this directly. Let me see. Be the easiest thing. Can I send stuff over the chat? Let's see. Yeah, I think I sent it to you in the Zoom chat. Let me know if it works. You see it? But wait, I'll send it to you by email too, so you have it there, so each one of you has it.
yeah.
Or what do you prefer, email or the WhatsApp group?
Whichever, the WhatsApp group is actually it's
WhatsApp
fast.
group is better?
Yeah.
Okay. It's an Excel file. I'm not sure you're going to be able to open it with your phones. Probably, so but let me know.
Could you share it to my email, Peter?
Yes, yes, Dixon. I will.
Share it to me via email.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to translate this. But I will do it for you, and then I will also send you a translated copy. And I just sent it to you, Dixon, that email too. It's going out now. Yeah. Is it okay? Did you manage to open it?
Yeah.
Uh, Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, now I was trying to translate, but it takes too long. So as you can see, the first one was the one we examined in Kenya in 2017. First election. Our main plot was the Ruli dynasty clings to power, and we identified 4 subplots, which are basically ways in which the main plot unfolds in practice. So we spotted, we decided to concentrate our attention on the connivance between the Electoral Commission and the ruling party at the time, on the manipulation of electoral results through the voting technologies, which was basically a good idea because it turned out to be quite accurate. The legitimacy of the first round of voting and the repetition of the votes. The boycott of the second round of voting by the opposition. These hypotheses are all formulated before we start the inquiries, and then we go back to them at the end. We return to them to see if they actually made sense, and in some cases we changed them because we might have also verified that they did not apply. Here, this other column on the right, you're actually not seeing my screen. I will share it anyway because I would like you to see what I'm doing, although you have it in front of you anyway. You're seeing it now. Are you seeing the Excel file? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You see, there's 6 more columns here, actually 7. What we're trying to do within the project is to also formulate what we call comparative plots. Comparative plots are basically even more generic ideas of plots that we try to apply cross-country, so to several countries, to create a comparative scheme of these comparative framework of plots that can be used across countries. So as you see, each country has a very specific, quite specific plot and very specific subplots. But then what we have done is we have identified 7 for now. We're working on this charisma aspect, which is quite new. There's probably going to be something about that too. But for now, we have 7 cross-country comparative plots. One of them is the zombification. Zombification is a scenario where you have a leader that's increasingly becoming old and also does not have the capability anymore to function as ruler for a country, but he is still held in power for many reasons, because his entourage needs him, basically, or for other reasons, because he is the only charismatic figure who can really manage to create at least a little bit of consensus around a regime which is growing old as much as he is, etc. The other one is the return of the phoenix. In some cases, we have political actors, presidents who come back on the scene after having been eliminated, ousted from the scene because of some, particularly maybe a scandal, or in some cases, it's also the opening up, let's say, of several different political arenas after the end of the Cold War, when the two blocs stopped supporting several regimes they were supporting in Africa. And as you might know, it was more of a phenomenon that was spread in Francophone Africa, but many countries held these national conferences where they basically, most of them rewrote their constitutions, and they tried to close this chapter of their past where they had a single party rule, which could be either an ally of the Soviet bloc or non-aligned, or an ally of the United States and the Western bloc. So after the end of the Cold War, this order was disrupted, and many leaders ended up were ousted from power, but some of them have managed to return, mostly on claims that there's a saying in Italy that says things were better when things were worse. So this period of the 70s, 80s, the Cold War, for Africa, economically speaking, was not the worst. So although this has hardly any, well, it has a connection with the political situation, but that's the period when some African countries managed to at least start to get industrialized. And then, as you may know, after the end of the Cold War, there was this structural adjustment policy where African countries were compelled to align to standards of market competition, etc., which actually was, I don't know, maybe good for something, but at least for as far as the industry in Africa is concerned, it was a devastating measure, because the few industries Africa had needed state supports, and structural adjustment forbid this kind of support. African industry has suffered a contraction since. So, and some of these leaders that have managed to come back, we call them Phoenix. I don't know if you know, the Phoenix is a legend.
Yes,
We can hear you. We've lost him.
Sorry guys, I can't hear you, because when you start speaking, the microphone activates a bit later, and if you're saying something short, it just gets lost. Say again if you want.
No, we had lost your signal, but it's good. Okay.
You lost me. You lost what I said.
Yeah, we were talking about the Phoenix.
Yes, the Phoenix is. I was saying, the last thing I said is that it's a legendary bird from I think the Greek mythology, possibly even earlier Egyptian, who is supposed to be able to be reborn from its own ashes. So it burns and then it's reborn from its ashes. This use this word for this kind of leaders who have lost power and then come back. We have other scenarios where the vote is postponed or even cancelled for several reasons, usually as a strategy to stay in power for those who are in power. Another pattern that we have also in Kenya is the one of dynastization. I don't think it needs a lot of explanation. We've seen this all around Africa, especially lately. Well, we've been working, well, some cases are really strong, such as Gabon, We are seeing attempts to do similar stuff in Congo Brazzaville. Let me just see, because and yes, Togo is the son succeeded to the father. The DRC, the actual president Tshisekedi is descendant of an opposition who was at the opposition for a long time, starting with Mobutu, and now he finally made it. But it's some sort of dynasty. It doesn't have to be necessarily only those in power who transmit the power to their descendants, but it can also be on the side of the opposition. We've seen this also, Togo again. That's it for now. We have a special situation where it's the technocrats who dominate the political scene, or they also play a significant role on the political scene, where the main opposition leader presents himself as a technocrat, more or less. Then we have the election of monarchy. We have two of our countries who are also monarchies, one of which is Madagascar, which is a constitutional monarchy. The other one is Swaziland, Eswatini, which is bizarrely enough an absolute monarchy, where the king nominates half of the MPs directly, and the other half needs his endorsement to access the parliament. So it's a situation where the king is basically very much in control of everything. It's very interesting, but we'll talk about that if we get a chance. It's really a child of British colonial rule, who to fend off, to weaken the Dutch, the originally Dutch people who took over South Africa and who voted against British colonial rule. They were also colonizers and the Dutch. They're not obviously black or anything, but that's what gave birth to the apartheid regime, etc. And when this revolt happened and Britain lost control of South Africa, they created Lesotho and Swaziland, and they used supposedly traditional monarchs to just create these little countries within South Africa, by strengthening these monarchies, which are, as you probably know, the concept of monarchy in sub-Saharan African terms was different from the absolute monarchy that is traditionally known to European countries. Obviously, Europe has translated, and it was also very, very comfortable for these African monarchs to turn to the European idea of monarch during and after colonization. It's something I'm studying, making very, very interesting. Anyway, in some situations, the monarchy plays a significant role in the election. Disincorporation, this is something very complex that we still haven't defined properly, so I'll just skip it for now. And it has to do with charisma somehow. We're trying to figure out a way to factor this idea of charisma into our discourse, because it seems to be very important. But we're not there yet. So we will also use Kenya to help us do this. So to go on with our plots and subplots list, we worked in Congo in a legislative election, the Republic of Congo. It's Congo Brazzaville 2017, and that election we called the elections of the sons of, because it was really a situation where a lot of former MPs nominated their sons as successors, and so we had a lot of sons of that were candidates in specific districts. And then we were looking specifically at the candidacies of the sons of in the electoral fiefs of their parents. The power sharing between the PCT, the main party, and the opposition. The polarization of geographical conflicts, let's say conflicts related to the fact that people from different regions do not always feel like they're part of the same country, which is quite common. And then, well, the low low participation levels for this election, particularly ridiculous, something 20 to 30%. Then we have the presidential election in the DRC, and that's our example of election without votes. The vote was postponed by more than a year in a kind of telenovela thing where the electoral commission was saying, well, first there was an attempt to modify the constitution to obtain an extra mandate from Mr. Kabila, who was in power until then. Then he nominated a successor while thinking he might, obtain another important position for himself and keep power. Then, well, they signed a deal where they were supposed to do the elections by the end of 2017. It didn't happen. The Electoral Commission took a significant role in this situation, and they started claiming that they had technical problems and that the election was impossible to organize in the country, and that they didn't have a registry of voters, etc., etc. Then at one point, it's the US who comes into play and starts saying, okay, guys, now it's enough. We really need you are one of the countries in Africa that we support, we have strong ties with. We can't allow you to present yourselves as an undemocratic nation. So we need you to organize these elections rapidly. And so they decided at the end of 2018 to organize these elections. They introduced voting machines, meanwhile, which complicated things even more. They were introduced after a meeting between the Electoral Commission and the ruling party, who did not consult everyone else and decided to use the system, which really says a lot about its transparency. And this was all pointed by unrest in the population. Every two months or so, people would go out to the street, set fire to everything. It was a hard time for the DRC. It ended up with a victory of the opposition, with this descendant of son of the traditional opposition leader who got to power and probably reached a significant level of compromise with Kabila and his party to achieve power and to be also able to manage the country after the election. Then we have Zimbabwe 2018. This is when Mugabe had been ousted a few months before this election because he was trying to nominate his wife as his successor, and his entourage. Remember this? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
The entourage within his own party decided that it was not. I mean, they wanted one of them to be Mugabe's successor. They had been waiting for 30 years for him to die, and now that he was going to die, he puts his wife it was totally unacceptable. So there was a coup, and Mugabe was replaced by this man, Mnangagwa, who ended up winning the election after. This was a moment of hope for Zimbabwe because people thought that even that after this coup, Mnangagwa, the new president, who was from the old ruling party, but he pretended to be extremely tolerant and open, etc., etc. Then the election was held. The election was won by him, probably with a lot of rigging, and there were demonstrations. There was unrest, and it was sedated in blood. It was repressed very hardly by the ruling party, and so Mnangagwa showed his real face. And interestingly enough, even before he came to power, they used to call him the crocodile. Mugabe was the lion, and Mnangagwa was the crocodile. The crocodile, you don't see him coming, and then he turns nasty on you. So this is what actually happened to the people in Zimbabwe. So our plot was the fall of the zombie, Zimbabwe's transition into the post-Mugabe era. We had a struggle for succession within the ZANU-PF. Mnangagwa was not the only one who had wanted power, so he also had to play very cautiously and with a lot of ability to get rid of internal adversaries within the party. The recycling of renowned violence perpetrators. Elections in Zimbabwe are very much connected to violence. Polling stations, especially in rural areas, will be surveilled, guarded by these people who are not, maybe some of them are even officially soldiers, but they're not there in their uniforms. They're just there to, tell the people by their presence that they got to do what they got to do, and if they don't, it's going to be really hard for them. And in fact, there's lots of violence going on. There has been a lot of violence around that election going on. So the repetition of coercive and intimidatory electoral strategies by the ruling party, this was really there. The appropriation of political capital accumulated through the fast-track reform. This was a reform that Mugabe promoted to distribute the land. Zimbabwe was decolonized only in 1980. So, I mean, as late as 1980. So when this happened, Mugabe, a few years later, he passed this reform, which was meant to take the land from the whites and distribute it to the black farmers. And it partly succeeded. It was quite unique to the point that somebody claims that it was a main element that pushed the international community to make a deal with Mandela in South Africa before someone like Mugabe took power and distributed the land. Because Mandela took power and apartheid ended, but there was no redistribution of the land or industry or resources of South Africa to the black. So some analysts say that once they saw that in the 90s that Mugabe was passing these reforms and that they were actually being implemented, they thought, wow, this is going to happen to South Africa too. So before this happens, let's find a guy who can make a deal with Mandela and put him in power, but without having such a violent transition where the white interests are really harmed. So anyway, restructuring the opposition. Yes, well, there were attempts with an opposition that hadn't seen power since the independence and was completely under threat and having other problems, tried to reconstitute before this election. They didn't manage to to win it anyway. The relation between political strategies and rebooting the Zimbabwean economy. Zimbabwe is one of the countries who have really undergone an effort to industrialize in the 80s, and then was blocked by the structural adjustment policy. So there's a lot of dissatisfaction in Zimbabwe with people who grow up in a context where things are looking good, better and better, and now it's going back to when I was there in 2018. They didn't even have money circulating, no money, just dollars, loan applications. The government was even unable to provide cash. So, yeah, and the relation between foreign influences that, especially South Africa, has a strong presence in Zimbabwe. Then we look at Gabon. Gabon is a situation where this is a legislative election where the dynastic order that was already established in the previous presidential election was consolidated, and the political elite was also consolidated, and privatization of the public sphere. This is what we were talking about yesterday. So our subplots were the dynastic construction, the recommendés, the people who have a special treatment because somebody is endorsing them, not in an official way, but you have this in the labor market, somebody who has a special recommendation. I don't know what the English word for this is. Then we had the small candidates. This is a situation we had there where there was a deliberate attempt in several districts by those who were close to the ruling party to multiply the number of candidates in order to fragment the votes of the opposition. So you had a lot of little guys coming up from nowhere, stealing votes, basically from the main opposition party, stealing and taking away votes. A test for the result of the presidential election in 2016. The links between local and legislative elections. We had a careful look about that because of these things, these problems connected to these phone applications I was mentioning to. They were actually massively used in 2016, and then it was forbidden in 2018, and somebody was threatening to do it anyway. Somebody actually did it. And then, the lack of human resources for the opposition. They had very few people in polling stations. They had a real problem manning the election on the opposition side. Then presidential election in Cameroon 2018. Cameroon is probably one of our zombies. We're still there, and so our plot was longevity and consolidation of the single party regime in a multi-party context. Paul Biya is one of those guys who managed to survive this shift to multi-partyism after the end of the Cold War, and he always managed to more or less stay in power not more or less. He managed to stay in power after this transition. He was not there since the independence as others. He came to power in the 80s when already things were starting to change, but he managed to stay there until now. And he's old and he lives in Switzerland in a hospital, and he's not there. But there was an attempt to renovate the faces of his party. by fishing among young people, Cameroon is also a place where there's a significant amount of dissatisfaction with this poor guy who's always been there and hasn't done that much. Then we were looking at regionalization and the role of local members of the armed forces and members of the state agencies on the local scale. Cameroon has a significantly militarized state. And obviously that's one of the ways for the ruling party to create support. The ruling party, Paul Biya's party, was also taking advantage from a real deep knowledge of how to rule a country, whereas others couldn't claim any experience in this field because he was in power since 1980. So this was also, Paul Biya was also playing a lot in the role of technocrats. I'm the only one who can do it, guys. I'm the only one who knows how to do it. So there's no other choice. There was a lot of work to influence traditional leaders to ensure their endorsement and support for the ruling party. Military intimidation was also there. And obviously the medias were massively influenced too. And then we were also looking at the connections between state enterprises and the dominant party. Then we look at Madagascar. So we had Madagascar is a country that has a crisis during the last elections. Crisis meaning people going to the street, demonstrations, instability, unrest. And the 2018 election was a bit less so, actually, but they were expecting something bad. So we were really looking at this chrysogenic feature of election in Madagascar, and also this situation of crisis was always resolved by the royal family, who plays a particular role in Madagascar. They control the economy a lot, but their play in politics is really hidden. They really don't show up so much, but they're there. So there was a massive work done to ensure the support of eminent authorities, which basically are religious leaders, traditional leaders. Madagascar has a quite particular social structure compared to the rest of sub-Saharan Africa, because it is basically a Pacific nation rather than a Bantu. So it combines. The Bantu only arrived in the 1800s in Madagascar. Before, it was only people from the Pacific Islands. So they have a combination of Bantu traditions and a lot that comes from the specific background, including local rulers, etc. Well, then there's and this also shows up in an incredible complexity of social groupings. You could also almost call them castes, where you belong to a group because of your origin, because of what you do, because it's quite complex. And this was all very active on the political scene. Leo, adesso basta.
Okay.
Oh, sorry guys. I have a son who is unable to control himself. That's unfortunate. 12 years old. So then we looked at Swaziland, which, as I told you, is an absolute monarchy, and we were looking at the longevity of the Swazi political elite, ensured through the perpetuation of the political system and constraints to the electoral process imposed by the king. The king is controlling everything. Who is allowed to be a candidate, who is going to the parliament, he will even turn into spider and spy on you when you're in the ballot box. So be very careful. I'm saying this as a joke, but it's not a joke for people over there, and it was really a factor in our analysis. They also have a number of just read this. So the status quo is there are no political parties. There's just a few associations who cannot present themselves as party. They try to say something. And there are still debates which happen mostly underground about reforms of the political system. There is no inclusion or representation for certain groups, particularly women, young people, and along with the election, there was a surge in news about rumors of ritual murders. Ritual murders would be the work of candidates who would use body parts to increase their power, etc. So the media was full of reports, these ritual murders. It's not clear, but possibly there's a connection between highlighting all these kind of episodes, which may be true or not, and persuading people it's not that good to have elections at all, because the candidates were horrible things. So it's better to just leave power to the king and stay put. So then we had the constraints to free and fair electoral competition, traditional practices as conditions of legitimacy. This is part of how it works. The king invites all the candidates to his royal palace, and there's a party, there are rituals, and there's a moment where it is said that below the entrance to the palace there are buried the heads of all his enemies, and so if you go to his palace you have to walk on their heads, and this neutralizes your capacity to be a nuisance for him. These things are, I just open a little parenthesis here. When I mention these things, I'm not doing it in a, I'm not making fun of them at all. I think that personally, and also this is the stance we take in the project, that human beings function this way a lot. And if it's not the head of your enemy, that's the object where your belief is concentrated. It's some other kind of object, including your iPhone or your computer. We assign value to objects that is way beyond what they really are. And we do it in Africa, we do it in the West, we do it all over the place. And this is influential in our decisions, very influential. People will buy a $1,500 iPhone even if they earn half that much per month. So why? Because they assign a value to the thing that's not really there. It's just a phone like many others, maybe a bit better for some things. So I hope you understand what I mean. In Anglophone countries, African countries, I have found more reticence to speak about this. I think that the English mindset, Anglo-Saxon mindset, instilled even more shame into the colonized about this way of functioning than the French. But I know that these things also exist in many Anglophone countries. Swaziland is one of them. And I know that, I mean, at least there, these things really have an influence on electoral behavior, really strong. So I'm asking you not to refrain from actually reporting information on these kind of things, if you find any. just because you don't want Kenyans to appear as people who believe in weird things, etc. Because that's not what we will conclude. And again, I think that you know, immanent power is there in society, and it can be exercised in many different ways. And so-called sorcery, witchcraft is one of them. And also, I want to add that the frontier between religion, sorcery, is purely artificial and possibly a result of, you know, Western attempts to say that what comes from the West is better, whereas even our religions have significant amounts of beliefs that are very similar to sorcery and to what is called sorcery, superstition, etc., etc. The Christian religion is derived from paganism. Paganism is full of little things that you could do, sacrifices, to ensure that the gods will be good to you. And this stuff is still alive in the Christian religion. In different forms, we have the saints, we only have one God, and now different little niche are taken by these saints who play an important role, especially in the Catholic Church, but not only, etc., etc. So this is just a little parenthesis to tell you how we would like you to deal with this kind of stuff. We were also looking at the constraints faced by the electorate, and this was really hard for the people. Denial of opportunities. Basically, the ruling party, the king, was trying to convince people to go to vote because nobody would go. They would just, you know, it doesn't make a difference. So this quest for legitimacy, at least on the international scene, the king needed people to actually go to vote. So they would force people to go to vote. Yes, and then vote buying, lack of education. South Africa, 2019, the decline of the ANC, who still managed to keep power, but with a significantly reduced majority, and the struggle for retaining leadership. Ramaphosa was the candidate for the ANC and making efforts in all directions to acquire legitimacy, especially by presenting himself as different from the corrupt predecessor. The debate over state capture, yes, and state capture in the post-apartheid era, where the South African institutions have been, I must say, unfortunately, undermined by this clientelar and sectarian logic. Sectarian, not so much meaning connected to religious patterns, but rather to party divisions, and also with some kind of geographical connections. The generational gap. So we had a bunch of new leaders coming out on the scene, a few of which were pretty aggressive and managed to gather a lot of consensus. The idea that change was needed was also there. The evolution of racial politics. This was very interesting because still is a big debate on how the economy should be de-apartized, as well as like politics has been de-apartized, and this has still not been done with the economy in South Africa. The realignment of parties along social class patterns. South African society is has been evolving a lot, and it's really one of the few African countries, maybe along with Kenya, to really have both some sort of middle class where people have a certain level of wealth in quite large numbers. And interestingly enough, this has extended to Black people a lot in South Africa lately. And so there's been redesigning of a lot of patterns and fewer parties that present themselves as white parties, still are. And new ethnic groups, well, this goes along with what I'm saying now. The issue of land redistribution and its targets. So this is still something that's on the table in South Africa. What should we do with all this land, which is owned by white people, Black people working on it? And it was also one of the topics in the electoral campaign, especially for one young candidate who was really very vocal about his intention to redistribute the land. Politics through electoral mobilization. Then the DRC 2018-2019. This is when they finally held the election in the DRC, and the dynastic order gets consolidated because it's the son of the opponent who gained the election without particular incidents or without having a real adversary, because Kabila gave up and possibly made a deal with Tshisekedi, which has produced the government that the DRC has now. We then looked at Senegal in 2019. Senegal has a particular situation where the electoral system is quite healthy. They have several parties in power in the past decades, and but still there was a big so the plot we designed was where vote really counts, let's say. We still have to look into this there, I think, but that was the idea. But there still was a big problem with generational turnover, where young people were really prevented from being candidates with different excuses. Their candidacies were refused. And Macky Sall, the president in power, managed to win again. His main adversary was Wade, Abdoulaye Wade was his adversary, who had lost the previous election and was trying to candidate his son to this election, but his son was barred from participating. And Wade is a big name in Senegal. He has been in power quite a lot, especially before the 80s, or until the end of the 80s. Anyway, and there was a lot of work to with imminent forms of authority. Senegal is really very densely populated with religious traditional leaders of all kinds, and they kept holding, the two big parties kept holding conferences where all of these guys invited. They were competing to buy them out. And one other thing is these fraternities were very strong. They're connected to the Muslim religion, and which also these fraternities also have leaders, and they really give voting indications. But then strategies adopted to conquer young voters, because that was the big problem in that election, was really that the young people wanted something new, and hardly anyone was able to provide it to them, because Khalifa Sall, which was which has the same name Macky Sall, is not his son. He was a dangerous candidate, young, and he was stopped from competing. Then we looked at Togo in 2020, where the military dictatorship turns into a dynasty. Succession is confirmed. We had already looked at Togo in 2016, and again, it's the son of the former president of Yandema, who was confirmed again as the president. It was a situation where I'm sorry. 2020 was, yes. No. The son had been nominated by his father, but never won an election. He won it later in 2020, and that's when he actually was confirmed. Togo is really a militarized state for many things. There was a traffic of influences. Well, there was a massive campaign by the army to. I mentioned to you that one of the things we keep in mind when we do our inquiries is that the ultimate horizon of every election is the dissolution of society. Is the war, what Remy calls the war of everyone against everyone. It's and this perspective can be presentified to the citizens in different ways, through violence, basically, or the possibility of violence. In 2018, there was a lot of unrest on the Togolese election, and this time the police acted preemptively, and the army, and you could see the army everywhere, and they also cracked down on any sort of minimal demonstration that could show up on the streets for or against, basically against powers in place. So the armed forces were massively used as a tool for the election, and also to show to the people how close, how easily one can plunge into violence. Do you still hear me, guys? My voice is going. Okay. Then we were also looking at sorry, we're in Togo. The traffic of influence between local authorities and regionalized elites. So same thing as in many other contexts. There are regional authorities which are not political but imminent, and they played a significant role. They were being bought basically by the regime. Our supervisor here for the team is a historian who is also an important personality from his home region, which is not Lomé. Lomé is the capital of Togo. And then there's another city on the coast, which is Alejo, and that's where he comes from. And he has been a candidate also in politics for the mayor of Alejo, and he is from one of these families who traditionally have an important role, let's say eminent leaders. And he kept being invited to these situations where the government would try to buy his support. Well, yes, attempts to weaken the opposition by offering them positions within the administration, so salaries, benefits, etc., to just prevent them from actually being real opponents. And then, as a consequence, disgregation of the opposition, reunion, and then provinces, the reunion, etc. Cameroon 2020, again, this is a legislative election, but the ruling party obtained a lot of votes with Paul Biya really going back and forth from Switzerland, trying to show that he is in Cameroon, but hardly getting anyone to believe this. What the different parties, opposition party, were doing in a multi-party context. We were looking at the position of political parties and the presidential majority, the elite and the electoral village. There was a policy where each member of the government or the MP was really under pressure from the RDPC, the ruling party, to win in his constituency. Otherwise, he would lose all the benefits. So there was a lot of what we call marchandisation. They turned the votes into a trading good, where people would be really convinced to vote in exchange for money. There would be transport organized for them if they would vote, etc., etc. This was all basically organized by the ruling party. Ivory Coast, we had a repetition of the 2010 election in 2020, with three big candidates that keep fighting for political power since many years. You remember maybe what happened some time ago, where Gbagbo was historically in power since the 1980s, and then in 2006 he lost the election, but he decided to remain in power, and there was a crisis, and international pressure forced him to share power with Ouattara, was his main opponent. And then in 2010 and 2015, Ouattara won the elections twice. But Gbagbo is always there and is always trying to come back. And then there's this guy, Bédié, who was also in power before Gbagbo. These are all very old guys who are still contending, the three of them, for power. And Bédié was somehow the needle of the balance, because he was very undecided between who would he support, between Ouattara and Gbagbo, and so Bédié ended up supporting Ouattara, and Ouattara won again. This is Congo 2021. In Congo, so as you can see, the three candidates were the technocrats, Ouattara, the Phoenix, and then Gbagbo, the charismatic leader, the man of the people. In Congo Brazzaville, it's quite boring. We always have the same guy, the Phoenix, Denis Sassou Nguesso. We had an interesting situation, although, because there was one candidate who was really able to bring a challenge to him, but he died, as I already mentioned to you, he died from COVID, possibly a few weeks for the vote. It was very interesting to follow. He died on a plane while they were trying to bring him to France. So somebody says to heal him, somebody says to get rid of him. It's very unclear, what happened. It's very common for people from Congo to go to France if they have a health problem. But what is strange is that was the government who organized very rapidly a flight of this kind to be sent to France. Although he was the main opponent of the president, so and the president there is known to really be able to play all sorts of little tricks, including getting rid of people. Well, so do you think this helped a little bit in understanding what we're trying to do?
Mm.
Or are you just sleeping?
I wanted to ask, and again, I'm not sure if I asked yesterday. We were collecting data, basically. So as you're seeing all these other elections, is it pointing at some direction in the election that's coming, whichever it is, maybe if it's Kenya, from the similarities and the differences we're getting from the other ones? Are we able to get a prediction or a picture of whatever is going to happen?
It's a good question, Timmy. Actually, we were sometimes, approached by people who kind of ask us, I guess you're doing all this because you're gonna be able to predict what's gonna happen in other countries. They're not entirely wrong, but I think they have too much in mind examples such as Cambridge Analytica or stuff like that, where people are really using technology and machine learning to draw predictions. In my opinion, it's still very difficult to do it, even with all the tools that are available to these bigger companies. Our idea, yes, well, ultimately, if you want, we will also maybe be able to predict a little bit more of what could happen. But predictions are basically anchored on the knowledge of the country. So it's hard that it's very difficult that the elements from other countries will help us to predict what is going to happen in Kenya in a specific election. We can outline common tendencies and possibly, with countries that are geographically maybe close or have things in common with Kenya, we could try I don't know. I mean, our aim is not really to formulate predictions. Our aim is to analyze what has happened and also to try and create a comparative framework where we can single out common tendencies, things that happen in different countries. But I think it's really difficult to single these tendencies out in a way that allows you to say Kenya is surely going in this direction. It is more like something that we do ex post, how we say in Latin. We do it after. We don't. We are gathering a lot of data, as you said, and we've been gathering data for 5+ years now. 7 if you count the first campaigns in Cote d'Ivoire and Congo Brazzaville, which you don't see here because EleQta wasn't there. Still have run 4 campaigns before these. So all this data, we are still developing the tools to entirely analyze. So far, it has only been used by researchers who have accessed it using the tools that I think you are more or less now capable to understand, because it's the same labels that you apply to the data when you are entering it will be used by researchers to find the information. So geographical labels, chronological labels, dossiers, thematic labels such as the topics, etc. And researchers have come to us, or researchers from the teams have used this data to write articles, publish them, but there isn't a real effort to draw predictions. There should be, if we had a larger team and somebody who was really proficient in data analysis, which I personally am not entirely, and machine learning especially, we would feed this information to an algorithm and try to get something out of it. The idea actually is to do something like this using our comparative plots. Try to understand which elements of data reinforce the idea that a comparative plot is present in a single country. And we are trying to develop ways to use automated technologies to give us an answer. How far is the zombification in Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe or Cameroon, etc., using keywords, using machine learning, etc. But it's very complex, and the budget of the project is not big. This year, to be very frank with you, this year we are investing 5,000 euros in research campaigns. Basically, half is going to Kenya and the other half is going to Angola. Congo Brazzaville, we're doing with Remy, using his personal research funds and giving them to the guys down there because he's there. And we have invested 3,000 euros in EleQta, out of which 800 are maintenance costs for the past 3 years, because with COVID we had a cut in funding, so we had accumulated a significant debt only for the maintenance cost, which is about 200 to 300 euros per year, euros and dollars. The rest was used to develop the first data access functionalities, which are still on the way. We are trying a way to export all the data and use other software to analyze it. We're still working on it, but it's the project is Remy, me. I have an IT engineer who helps me with certain things when I need really technical interventions on EleQta, and he is actually being paid as a contractor, and then there's our 140 researchers and supervisors in the 13 countries that we work in, who are involved at variable degrees of involvement, but there's not much money for them on the table, so there's a limit to how far we can go and ask them to agree. In the late months, we've been organizing seminars with Remy. Remy holds a seminar about elections every year. So we had a lot of these guys now participating to our seminar. And we also we also had planned to organize one event every year where we would meet possibly all of us, or at least the supervisors, to discuss the project, the method, work on plot, comparative plots, etc. We managed to do it only once before the COVID struck, and then it was impossible. We could not invite one, absolutely. We would like to organize something like that next time. This time, the only time we did it was in Paris. The next time we want to do it somewhere in Africa, and we would also like to try and involve every team member, not just the supervisor. So this is to be very frank, is the situation of the project. We have produced maybe some I would say 7 or 8 articles, out of which 5 are real academic articles. The others are maybe for the press or for minor reviews. We keep working on trying to publish more and more. But this is it. And as far as the prediction is concerned, would be it would be useful and also probably a significant source of revenue if we could sell if we could sell predictions to candidates. And who knows? I think that the way we look at elections is not far from what these think tanks are doing, which, by the way, have changed their behavior a lot in the past 10 years. And by factoring in all sorts of information, not just looking at polls and official figures, etc., but also really trying to understand and also to manipulate society through information and news, fake news, etc., etc. So we are gathering knowledge that might be very useful because I know perfectly what works and what doesn't work in terms of creating consensus or even destroying consensus for some adversary. So I would be able to give some good advice, or maybe so would you. So, or you will also have access to all of that, and so you can use it the way you want, provided you quote us. So, but frankly, we also have a little bit of a moral stand where we don't want to really be part of something where we get money from people that are susceptible also of influencing us. We had proposals. Why don't we make a think tank? Why don't we just, and that would have been money, positions, but then they will guide you more or less gently in one direction, and we just don't want that. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Lately, Remy has been really trying to move the initiative more and more towards Africa. He is creating a few research institutions in Congo Brazzaville and in the DRC well, to be very frank to you, it's basically to get funding, because there's a lot of funding that goes to southern research institutions. He is not going to steal the money, but in the academic world now it's really more and more hard to get funding. So he is also implementing these realities in Cameroon, also Gabon, and the DRC, with friends from there, some of which are the supervisors of the local teams. And it's not just about elections. They work on colonial archives, they work on COVID, medical problems. It's very variegated, So I'm sorry, I keep talking a lot. I hope this answers you more or less. Do you have any other? It's 3 o'clock. We still have half an hour to go. Huh? I'm gonna let you leave at 3:30. I think is it because we only had 1 hour lunch break.
That's okay. Can I ask something then? To finish the last 30 minutes.
Yes.
If you are to rephrase the way this dynasty hustler thing is being described by both sides, the incumbency is describing it as deconstructing the political state in favor of an administrative state, while the opposition is describing it as fighting the state capture.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's also describing that that the Kenyatas, the dynastic families are doing a state capture, while the other side, now the incumbents are trying to say that we are getting rid of the crony capitalism, the political state that exists in favor of a more professional administrative state.
This is very interesting. It's what you say makes me think about a little bit of a technocratic stance by the incumbents, by Odinga and Kenya. They are trying to present themselves as, technically capable of performing this transition of the Kenyan states. It's interesting because it seems to, but obviously they're diverting attention from this incredible paradox where these two former enemies have managed to make an alliance, and this alliance can only be based on state capture. There is no other logical reason for them to be together after having all these divergences, ideological in the past. So, and yes, they are obviously capitalizing on this reform. Do they speak of reform?
Yes, sir.
Do they use the word reform?
Reform, not directly. Okay, the former reformers are on one side. Apparently, that's Odinga and her running mate, and they call themselves the second liberation reformers, the one that ousted the previous government. Now they're on one side, despite also not ideologically not being on the same level. And then they're trying to show or cast the Ruto side as anti-reform, all the politics for politics of cronyism and nepotism and that kind of style of politics. They're moving away from that side. That's how they're trying to paint each other.
And I guess Ruto is really capitalizing on this idea of state capture by being and company.
Exactly. With the businesses and saying that Kenyatta is using his position to enrich himself.
I see. And how are Odinga and Kenyatta indirectly? What kind of message is he giving about Ruto? How is he trying to demolish him?
They're painting him as a corrupt guy. He's scandal-ridden, even though he's a Teflon Don, but he's scandal-ridden. Of course, sometimes the ICC thing comes up once in a while, depending on where they're campaigning.
Has Ruto faced inquiries for corruption or been condemned or? I'm not judging that. I guess it's not necessarily meaningful if you have this kind of background, because in the political context in Kenya, but also not only in Kenya, everybody is playing by rules that are not necessarily very.
Actually, what is happening is that there's a lot of blame games.
Yeah.
Because the first term, did they fulfill 50% of what they had in the manifesto? No, they did not. So there's that. Actually, the reason why I am not part of the Kenyatta government is because of because he's not following through with
The promises,
the promises.
the agenda.
So since it collapsed, it's like hands off. It's not my fault. It's the government. Yes, he's also the government. So it's a lot of blame games going around because of that handshake. Actually.
But did Ruto take official steps to move away from his position of vice president or not? I mean, did he really do something, or is it just about talking?
No, for him it's talking, but it's Uhuru who did it. So what Uhuru did, because he couldn't have, the election ticket is one. Constitutionally, you cannot make him resign. Ruto can only step down on his own volition, or in case of a vacancy. So what Uhuru did was to reorganize the government, and it was a very big judicial issue that had to be settled, where he put a position of a chief minister in the Matiang'i, who's the interior minister. Okay. And they never had a cabinet meeting from that time since I think last month. And then Ruto and his allies were supposed to report to that chief minister, which is quite humiliating for him. It's junior to him, so he never attended the meetings, never attended.
I see, okay. So he created a barrier between himself and Ruto, and just,
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, but Ruto is more in a position of clinging to what he has, also maybe to try and get something done, but he hasn't managed to get anything done in the past years, or at least that's what he will say.
He hasn't done anything really.
Let's say, rather than saying he hasn't done anything, he just separated himself from everything.
Yes. Okay, he's separated, but he's still sitting on his chair. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. How far? I would like to know from each one of you. How far do you think that Ruto is actually what he says he is? This is just personal, and just out of personal curiosity. Do you think he's really honestly trying to do something and is being hindered in any possible way, or is he more in the system than he actually wants us to think?
Well,
I don't know. In my own opinion,
I want to hear Jacqueline first.
I have an opinion to that.
Or also Dixon, yes.
Because for the case of Ruto, so many other politicians who are competing against him put the notion that he's a corrupt guy, and they have never really gone to court to present facts and evidences to show that he's a corrupt guy. So maybe he, on his own accord, as his character, maybe he says what he means, but the people who are fighting him don't really appreciate the honesty that maybe he's trying to show. That is my opinion, because people cannot use rumors to say so and so is a corrupt leader. They need to put facts and evidences to court. And another thing to note is the state has a heavy hand on judiciary. It is very easy for the state to use judiciary to mess with the leading political elites like Ruto, but you see they have not. So it's not really clear whether he really is with the state too, or he really knows how to hide his demons or something. So that is my opinion.
Okay, thanks. Interesting. They were never able to prosecute him officially, despite all these allegations, and it might also be because if they start prosecuting him, one may have a small something somewhere to hide, but then it would be hard to explain why the judiciary is going after him and not after others who have probably bigger problems. And okay. Jacqueline, please tell me what you think about this.
Yeah, I think I keep I keep shifting. Today I'll be like, yeah, maybe it really means what you mean. The other day I go back to the other side. You hear something, go back to the side. So it's like I keep shifting from one to the other.
Because I think the truth is, they're all corrupt.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So now, when they're not prosecuting, the reason why Ruto feels slighted is, why are you only going for me and my people, the people who are surrounding me? Yet your family members, some of your allies are also named in corrupt scandals and you never hear about them.
Also, it's like me, I have mine, you have this one, you have that one.
It's probably the reason why they don't go against each other really much. They just mention it by the roadside campaigns and stuff like that. But they're never seriously prosecuted.
I see. Can you remind me more or less how many votes did Ruto's party get at the last election? How big was he, more or less? Do you know? Or I can just take a look at it.
Ruto with Uhuru or Jubilee, or because
yes, because they were together in Jubilee, of course.
Yeah.
yes. So it's hard to say. So I mean, people voted either for Jubilee or for NASA, but they didn't have the choice of a single party on the bulletin.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right.
So, but it's also expected that he's going to get a majority of the seats, even this time around in Parliament. It only he might be able to control the legislature, but not the executive.
Yeah, because I have the same thing also. Yeah. It's like he knows he knows you'll not win, so he's trying as much as possible to get many of his people the seats, so that when it comes to like passing a bill or something, he has the power now, and to
yes, of course.
Control. Yeah.
I see. How does it work? When you go to the polling station, you vote for the president, so you have a list of candidates, I guess, not parties.
Yeah.
And then you vote, and then you also vote for your local MP, which is among parties, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So you can vote two different things. You can vote.
Yeah, you can vote whichever.
But there are people who actually vote for the full suit. Like if it's in a 6-piece, they just go and tick the label of the logo of the party and they just tick. But this time it's tricky because there are so many collisions. So many parties have come together. So guys will this time will not go for the 6-piece votes. They'll just pick whoever works for them.
I see. But Ruto is not using the Jubilee label.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just sorry, remind me, what is party? What is?
I mean, I don't care. I don't give a shit.
The oldest party.
You're really supporting EleQta here.
Oh, I thought Dixon was saying something.
Yeah, I also thought Dixon was saying something, but I didn't understand.
This is like a good tip, very good work.
No, he's not saying anything.
Oh, okay, all right. Anyway, I will tell you what we're going to do in the next sessions. Tomorrow we're really gonna look into the mission part of your work. I will explain you how to enter mission observation data, well, how to go on the field, basically, also first thing. And then how to enter mission observation data, provided that I still have a voice to do that. And then we will look at the interviews part, which is a little bit more tricky because it requires to analyze the interviews before you enter, while you enter them into the EleQta platform. So tomorrow we will stick to this. If we have a little extra time, we will keep on talking about Kenyan politics. And then it's going to be Thursday morning that we will really try to formulate our hypothesis.
So did they get your, because it's PowerPoint, that's your passport number, your.
It's somebody else.
If someone else said.
Okay, sorry. All right. Passport number, oh God.
Exactly, right?
Was it easy to get in there, or do you have to undergo search? And no, it's okay.
No, it's actually
Nothing immediate, just a normal screen.
normal screen.
All right, okay. I was kind of worried. And then, so then on Thursday, on the last day, we will do some little more exercise, and we will really try to put black on white these plot hypotheses. So in the afternoon, we can try to withstand Remy's rage when he's gonna hear them from us, and he will want us to. He always tries to squeeze things into this comparative framework, which is understandable because we are an international project, but it's also a bit reductive sometimes. So we will try to have a productive fight with him about this. Guys, I think I'll leave you to it because my voice is really almost entirely gone. We're gonna keep the same schedule for tomorrow until 3:30, if it's okay with you. And then, sorry.
No, it's again, it's also.
Okay, so it's okay, good. And well, so that's it for tomorrow. Maybe Dixon, you said, did you conduct interviews recently with people in your neighborhood?
It could be the case.
Yes.
I would say like, okay, we're gonna get.
Do you have
Yes,
a,
I did.
did you transcribe them? Do you have them in written form?
No, but I can do it again today.
No, wait, but do you have them, what are they like? They're like recordings?
That's not such a big thing, you know. These things.
No, it was more of one-on-one conversation.
Okay. But what did you produce? You took notes, or just a conversation you remember, or?
Yeah, I have a short audio, and also I
Okay.
took notes.
Okay. What language is the audio in?
Kalenjin, Nandi.
Okay, Kalenjin. Because I would like to do an exercise of interview data entry, and we might use that. The only thing I would ask is if you could send it to us, maybe on the group, the audio, maybe before we start the session, if possible.
Okay.
If it's not a big deal, otherwise I will pull out my old interview stuff, but it might be more interesting to do it with something recent and that applies to Kenya.
I have a recorded conversation with an Uber driver. Yeah, I recorded last week. We were just having a conversation. I was asking him about the mood of the election, what he thinks, perspective. But most of it is in Swahili.
That's also good. Either one is going to be fine. Please try to have this material with you tomorrow, if possible. Don't do anything. Don't work. Don't transform. Don't write. Just bring it if you have it. Nobody is judging you. If you don't have it, doesn't matter. Just it's just useful to have an exercise working on something that makes sense. And maybe it will already produce something that can stay into EleQta instead of just working on empty sentences. So, so that's
Good
okay.
day.
This is always the neighbor talking. I'm sorry. Well, thanks again to everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. And if there's any things that is unclear, you can write me, call me anytime. Don't worry. We'll just spend another day on EleQta tomorrow, full day, and then we will spend our last day working on hypothesis and doing some exercise. That's it. Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot to everyone. Have a safe way home, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.
All right. See you tomorrow.
Okay. Ciao, bye bye.
Bye.
Ciao, Dixon.